Welcome in, welcome back. I'm going to try and make this intro as short as possible, but what you're about to see shortly is a kind of a walkthrough of, again, if you don't already follow me and put the notifications on, go ahead and do that. We're at Skyy Shinobi at all platforms, but recently in a Twitch stream where we were going over some builds, we're going over a couple different builds, but I wanted to highlight this Severance Enclosure build that we recently walked through with chat. The way I approach builds is that you have to do a bit of theory crafting about what is possible with the build. You have to test the build out, and then you can actually refine the build and get to a place where it feels good. And so rather than kind of like edited and a very scripted video, I wanted to kind of offer this because I really don't do build videos like this. But if you all like this formula, if you like the way that I approach it, I definitely would be interested in exploring creating more videos like this in the future. But again, I just hope folks get something out of it, that you don't have to have the most OP broken meta build for it to be good in Destiny 2. The build we're going to show off today is definitely super powerful and low tier content, but it's very adaptable and flexible to be able to go into higher tier content based on your play style and based on whatever you want to throw into the kit. So definitely let me know in the comments how you feel, and hope you enjoy. So this is the build that it's all based off of, and why I'm trying to like figure out whether it works or not, and why it's important to me to like actually have good data. Right now I really don't have good data. Before I can like make a build video or kind of like talk about this online, like for me, I really want to make sure that I've tested out pretty well enough, right? So Sunshot had a really good buff. Hand cannons overall got a really good buff. So like, and Sunshot it's always been powerful. So for me, it's just like Sunshot is always already powerful. And so like, I think that's like a given in terms of like weapons to pair with a solar build in general, right? But I want to take full advantage of Severance Enclosure because, again, as a full description says, power melee final blows unleash a damaging explosion. Finishers and final blows against more powerful targets increase the radius and damage of the explosion, right? This is a natural pairing for the Hammer Titan, right? The Solar Hammer Titan, because of how strong the Bonk Titan build is, but then also just because of being able to pair this really well with getting those solar explosions and ignitions, especially when we go into our super subclass. We have Ember of Wonder, where defeating multiple targets with solar ignitions increases orbs of power, right? So it's like if we're already getting those kills, getting those ignition kills, we're exploding batches of enemies of trash ads, we're doing a lot of damage, and we're getting the orbs of power on top of getting the melee orbs of power when we get multiple melee kills, because again, the hammer throws count as our melee. Then on top of that, we're adding the solar ignitions have increased area effect, so we can hit more enemies. The solar ignition spreads scorch to affected targets, right? So more scorch, which again, more scorch leads to ignition faster and more. And then defeating scorched targets grants melee energy and creates a fire sprite. So again, it's this gameplay loop of like we're always refunding into our melee, and then our melee again gets boosted because of Severance Enclosure. We get an explosion, and then those explosions are able to then produce scorch, so on and so forth, right? It seems pretty clear. But when you have something like Sunshot that's also really good at it, I think there's like a balance you have to strive for between like doing your melee attacks to be able to proc this gameplay loop for Severance Enclosure, and then Sunshot, which is just gonna do Sunshot things and be really solid, right? So for me, I'm almost wondering if Sunshot is too powerful for this build and just not really synergistic. And I'm trying to find out a good place where we can actually like test out that theory. And if I switch it out and say I go to Acacia's Dejection, right? Which is a really strong trace rifle. Trace rifles aren't super meta right now, but they're still really strong. And say, what I use as my exotic weapon. So the shotgun I think can still be viable. Just given the fact of shotguns and being able to put out a bunch of damage at the same time. Let's say that we wanted to go with auto rifle, Acacia's Dejection, and then maybe we went with Xenophage. So this is a different type of build from the Sunshot build, because ultimately now we're leaning in, and again, you have limited power, heavy ammo. So you're now having to like think a little bit more about how you're using Xenophage, because again, this is all built around your melee. It's not built around your damage, but we do have the ability to again get those solar ignitions and kind of build out from that. So again, this build out, I'm anticipating will allow us to lean more into that so that we can pair more with our Sunbreaker class versus, just being in a space where like, again, Sunshot, because it's so powerful, it's so easy to just, lean into using Sunshot versus your actual build. So let's see what a Xenophage build does for us. Okay, we're gonna do Xenophage. Get this buddy out of here. And again, we got, I'm not really too concerned about. I lost my hammer. So I'm not too concerned about like health in that regard because again, we have recuperation on, so our orbs of power, which we're producing plenty of those, are healing us. Teammate, please don't steal my kills. Anyways, I don't want to go into it. Got him. Okay, cool. Yeah, so Xenophage does seem like a solid choice. That like you can get bigger explosions for killing larger enemies. So we're getting this. This is cool. I'm trying to get this yellow bar to see what kind of Ooh, yeah. So that's a pretty big explosion. Got that. Again, we're really leaning into the fact that like we can. Ooh, come back here. Just literally cleared that out. Whoa. Oh, no. And so when we do this, it frees us up to not only save on ammo, but also really like lean into, again, we have orbs that we're generating from our melee kills. That's why we lean into that aspect of the build. Where is it? So firepower. Why is it firepower? When did it switch to firepower? It should be melee. Okay, so there we go. This is a great time to change that. But again, you see how many orbs we're producing even without having the right motto. Okay, so that definitely should have been melee, not grenade. Maybe that just didn't transfer over when I updated it. As of this like video right now, loadouts in game for Destiny 2 are actually down. There's an issue. And so Bungie completely disabled it so they could work on it. So I don't have my normal builds. I'm working through DIM to update the builds. And so sometimes they're not perfect. So there's that little mistake. But again, I think the point is still proven, just how powerful it can go. But you see that, we're producing a lot of orbs. The sunspots are healing us. And then also you're seeing that when we're making those explosions, we're passing off that scorch to other enemies. And so the greater the enemy, the bigger the area of effect. But even with like trash ads, it's still absolutely worth it to. Oh, I'm missing my hammer. Oh no, did it fall down? Oh no, it fell down. Okay, so trace rifle coming in handy. No, get away from my buddy. Fire and ice. Oh, run away. Ooh, okay, so I got that on the bounce. And remember, is also finishers. So it is powered melees, but it's also finishers. And that's the beauty of Severance Enclosure. Ooh, Lord, I thought I died. So we're melting, but I'm gonna try and get a couple more kills off so you can kind of see, yeah, not only are we getting that explosion, but we are also creating sunspots and just a lot of damage to be done. Obviously, if you're in higher tier content, you absolutely play this a lot slower, but you can see the potential of really having a solid build where we have weapons that are going to help us. Definitely having a trace rifle that's going to do a little bit better damage against majors. We also are going to have Xenophage. This is an exotic weapon. We definitely want to have an exotic weapon. Obviously, some of these builds you can make without having an exotic weapon, but for me, it's always nice to make sure that we have something that can enhance and build. And again, one of the key things about Xenophage is that, again, with these powered shots, they're doing a lot of chunky damage, like really good chunks of damage. Acacia's Dejection, again, we have reround wines. Rebound wines, it's always a tough one to say. We have rebound wines as well as paracausal affinity. And so really like lean into us being able to have the solar weapon and also solar subclass synergy with Chrome Rush, which is just going to be good for trash ads, as well as like cleaning up anything that you just need to. And then again, this is all synergizing by us having the gameplay loop be centered around, again, Severance Enclosure, where either our finishers, our final blows with our powered melee, in this case our hammer, are giving us the explosions. Explosions are producing Scorch. Scorch gives us ignitions, things explode, orbs are being created, and again, we just have a really nice playthrough and a really nice gameplay loop. So that's the basics of the build. I definitely think you can go in a different direction. I think there's a lot of different ways that you can approach this build, but for me, this setup is different from the this setup that we had earlier, given the fact that like Sunshot is so good and so tempting to use. Whereas like, and again, it pairs well because you're making these explosions with Sunshot, but then also Unwavering Duty has incandescent. So you're like making things go on fire. So again, this is not really boss DPS weapon, but it's really good for like taking care of majors as well as trash ads. And then you also have a 1-2 punch shotgun. So again, this is like really good for like chunking out damage and making the room go on fire. But then you might as well just use a different exotic, right? Because at the end of the day, you're using your weapons, you're not using your abilities and your powered melee. So it's just a lot to think about, but it's just also something to consider, is like what works best for your play style, what works best for the exotic, or again, either exotic weapon or exotic armor piece that you're trying to work with at the time. And then ultimately, what's going to get you to a really solid also gameplay loop. I'm calling it different things, but what's going to get you to a solid gameplay loop that's going to be smooth, it's going to make sense, and so it's not something that you continuously have to think about like, oh, I gotta use my grenade and then I gotta charge this up and I gotta do this. A lot of builds are super complex, and I feel like the actual most powerful builds are builds that are super simple, super straightforward, and allow you to engage in the game in a really powerful way, because it's very clear how you engage. And in this case, hit people with your hammer, make them explode. And then if you need to do some chunky damage, you have your super, because you're getting so many orbs, you're getting a lot of high uptime on your super, as well as you have Xenophage to also do some damage. So again, I think this is not just viable in low tier content, definitely something that you can bring into higher tier content. Obviously, with the modifiers, the different surges, you need to adjust that a little bit. But again, when we have all these pieces together, and then a weapon like Xenophage is also benefiting from solar weapon surge, and then all the explosions and everything we're doing with Severance Enclosure, again, I think this is a slept on exotic. I think this is a slept on approach to a solar build. There's a lot of really good Titan solar builds out there, but I think this is one of the ones that you should definitely take a look at when you have the chance. Thank you, and appreciate your time.